Hey everybody, wanted to do a fairly quick video on starting in the automotive industry, a career, and really want to think of it as a career because there's so many facets you can do. We've kind of talked about that in our previous video of all the different jobs are available out there. So let's start focusing on getting that job. So let me go ahead and get started by sharing this little presentation I put together. So let's see. Well, yeah, there we go. Now I got it. All right. So getting started, it seems easy. Just take wheel my toolbox in, and I'm ready to go. No, it takes a little prep work. I remember starting in the automotive career as a I was kind of blessed because I'm a third generation mechanic, and my grandfather would let me come up to the shop after I was out of school and on holidays and stuff like that. And I would be able to get around the automotive industry that way. And I started that way. And later on, I would scrub floors, clean tools, clean benches, whatever is needed of me. There was a lot of, kind of what you would consider menial, but this kind of work needs to be done. And then later on, I was allowed to move cars around, clean cars, vacuum out cars, and stuff like that. So this may be, and don't think of it as a bad thing, but it may be something where that's the way you're going to start. So think of it like this: you really want to think about, this is what I would like to be doing, and this is how I'm going to get there. So these little steps along the way is what I'm talking about. So I want to get started off by just kind of get you on the right path. So there's so many great tools you have at the college here that you can use to get going. And I'm going to, kind of talk a little bit about that. And I want you to be very prepared for the job. Of course, schooling is a big part of it, but I want to go beyond that. And I want to talk about, preparing to apply for the job, then go into, developing a resume, which you have so many tools here at the college to do that. Yeah, you can do it online, but sometimes you need that one person or that expert to go and look over your resume before you send it off to a boss and potential boss. I put it that way. And then we'll talk a little about other things that need to be involved in, like a cover letter too. And then I want to talk a little bit about applying for the job. Of course, you're going to have to fill out an application. You're going to go for interview or multiple interviews. And then it comes down to, if you are given the opportunity, then do you accept that employment? And I want to talk a little bit about that too. And then after you get the job, and I hopefully you talked about this prior to you accepting the job, is what kind of pay structure you're going to have. And we'll talk about the different pay structures that I've seen out there. And then, of course, you got to think of making a living. And I know that's what I thought about. I said, man, I got to get out of the house, because when I started, I was actually living with my mom and my dad, and I wanted my own place. I wanted my own place. I wanted my own tools. I wanted my own car, which I already had my car when I was 16. But then you kind of go, okay, after that, what do I need to do to be more of a professional and get to that rung that I want, that dream job at? And I'll have another video on working as a professional too, professional technician, I should put it that way. So let's go on beyond here. So let's talk about, preparing for the automotive, service career. So of course, you have to have a strong desire. I love working on cars. I always like working on cars. I now get to teach students how to work on cars. And you really now, not as much when I started off, but you really now have to have really strong computer skills because cars are actually fully function computers anymore. If you look at a Tesla, they call it the app car. Uh, but you have to have an interest in vehicles. You have to enjoy working on cars. If you don't enjoy doing something, and this goes for all careers, if you don't like doing something, get yourself prepared to get into another job market. There's so many different jobs out there. The automotive career might not be your thing. I mean, some people are taking some of these classes just to learn about the car, so they know how to do their own repairs, which I commend them on doing. I think everybody that drives a car should take some kind of introductory type class in automotive repair. Uh, but there again, all we need is a license, a keys, and insurance, and we're out on the road like that. Now, the other thing some techs do is they have their own little project cars, which is great. I've had some project cars along the way. I haven't had time for a project car lately, but I may have a project car coming up pretty soon. So you're going to actually start building up your technical knowledge and skills along the way. This is going to school, getting out in the field and learning, not just in the classroom, because this is going to only give you the kind of the beginning. As you get into the job market, you're going to learn all the little ins and outs of the different cars because it's always a growing field. It's not like becoming a doctor where you graduate and that's it, folks. All I have to do is take a seminar once in a while, learn a new technique. Now you're going to be going back to school. You're going to be learning about new cars because there's so many different cars out there. And depending on where you work, you may have training that's inside the actual your job, where they have people come in, or you may be sent to schools to learn more about something. And then of course you're going to have to start building up a toolbox because you want your own tools. Now, depending on where you work, some of the municipalities and some of the dealerships, they really want you not to be buying your own tools. You can have them for home, but they have specialized tools and they want to make sure you have the tools that you need. And also there's, getting into different types of parts, understanding the parts, and getting into procedures and stuff like that of how to do repairs. And a lot of times procedure is doing it over and over again. And then getting into job shadowing is a great way to learn the skill too. You'll work under a master technician and start building up your skills that way. And then you get into some co-op programs. We have quite a few at Santa Ana College where we can help you get you started in the automotive industry. There's always employers looking for students that are in the classes right now or getting ready to graduate. And then you can actually get into some of these programs like the Ford program, the Chrysler program, the Subaru program, and get yourself a leg up in getting into a dealership type job. So there's also what they call apprentice programs where you're a beginning mechanic, excuse me, and then you work under the wings again of an actual master technician or somebody in the shop. And some of you might even do part-time work. So you'll go to school and you only work part-time. So it's kind of like the co-op program. Co-op programs are a little bit different. And these are the programs that are put together by manufacturers where you go to school so many weeks and then you go into the field to practice that actual skill that you just learned in the classroom, whether it be at a college like ours, or you actually are at a dealership where they're sending you to school that way. A lot of times what the dealerships like, and that's why theirs works so good with us, is they like us to give them you guys the basic skills, And then after they get you in with the basic skills, they send you off to the manufacturer specific private training and stuff like that. So, and there's we have a really good relationship with a lot of the shops, not just, I shouldn't just say dealerships. There's also independents that love it that you're going to school, because you're just being more, you know, valuable to them, because you're learning all this stuff and then going and practicing it in their shop. Also, you know, you got to think of it this way too, and I don't want to be me kind of thing, but think of it as every time you learn a new skill, get a new little certificate, whatever, you're building that little platform to get to that dream job. And anything you learn, you know, I mean, if I learn one thing out of a class, I'm fully happy about it. That one thing is going to help me on that one, you know, car or that one project, and over and over and over again. So, all right. So the other thing too, folks, you need to learn some soft skills. Gosh, you know, I don't like writing. I don't like, you know, math or anything like that. But folks, we use that every day. You got to be able to communicate with your fellow employees. You got to communicate to your boss or your service writer. So all these things, you're going to have some kind of communication skills, which writing is a big thing. And now, I do want to say that with computers nowadays, there's a lot of things like spell check and stuff that's going to help you along. But sometimes you have to write down little notes that somebody's going to understand. So you need to have good skills working with other people too. A lot of places I worked at, it's a team. It's not just an individual. You have to get along with people. You have to communicate with people. You may have something like I was doing at one of my jobs. I was the diagnostic person, and I would diagnose something and it would be handed off to another person to repair it. So you may be in that kind of an environment too. And, you know, when you're looking for a job, you know, you really want to look at that job description. I don't want to have you go into a job, you go, gosh, I didn't know I was going to have to do this. You want to say, okay, I understand, this is what I'm doing, and look at the job description. If there's something that you are not really up to speed on, don't try to con your way through it. And there's other words for that, but if you can't do what the job is entailing, you might want to have a talk with somebody about, okay, when you say that I need to be a specialist in BMW, what do you mean? I've worked on BMWs. Does that count? So you need to make sure on the job description, this is what you want to be doing, one, and two, that you actually fill that job need by the employer. And then if there's any tools that you're going to have, do I bring my toolbox in? Do I actually have, are you supplying tools? And when it comes to specialty tools too. And of course, you want to know what hours of operation they are. Do you work Monday through Friday? Is this a day shift? Is it a night shift? Is this a weekend work? All that you need to try to understand, because that's going to be your set schedule for going to work. And please, if you agree to the hours and stuff, like, show up on time. Don't leave until the end of your time. If you're asked to work overtime, make sure it works for you too. But when you work overtime, a lot of times with employers, that really looks good. You're a part of the team kind of thing too. And the other thing too is a lot of jobs, because this is a sensitive, safety sensitive career. You may be drug tested too, so be prepared for that. I know some techs that lost jobs because they thought they could do a few things that was totally illegal, but they went ahead and did it anyways, and they lost their job because of it. So resumes. So your resume has to be very precise, and spelling is, believe me, if you misspell one word, that can be totally on that total possibility of that job. there's where I say that communication skill is really, really key. So you need to have your personal information on there, and what your career goals are. I wouldn't put down that I want to, have your job or anything like that. I would say I really want to grow with the industry, and continue to grow in your shop. Or there's different ways of putting that out there, but you want to be saying something very positive. You're not going to say, I want Joe's job over there because he's a team leader. A lot of times that doesn't look very good. And then you want to have your education information. What have you been doing education wise? Have you went to school on this? Do you have any kind of certificates in lay? Are you going to school? And if you haven't completed the course, you want to put down, I've passed these courses, and I'm attending this course right now, and I'm going to complete this course in this date or time, like that. So then you want to have your experiences and skills. You can do everything that you've done. If it's automotive related, that's great. If it's community outreach, one of the things I did was a lot of community outreach, and we used to do pre-check for smog for cars. And back in the day, I was part of the Automotive Service Council, and I would actually help them out in some of the projects too. And then references. Now, references, I usually put down references that are work related, but I also put down personal references on request, like that. So these are some of the things that you really need to look at when you're doing your actual resumes and stuff like that. There's a lot more to it. I'm just going through a brief example, and there's other things that people that are really experts in resumes can help you with also. Now, cover letters, it's some shops I've noticed want them, some shops don't. They just want a resume. They want to know what you're doing and how you're doing it and stuff like that. Well, resumes can be one of the, I put it down as my calling card. Hey, I seen your job on Indeed.com, and I wanted to apply for it, and I thought I could grow into this company. And this kind of lays out, so you want to put down details of where you found the ad. You want to put down specialist skills and training needed that you have, or and then you want to have contact the correct person. So what I mean by that, your skills, specialist skills you have, and and also you want to put down to a specific person. If you know who's going to be hiring, a lot of times it's going to be in some places, it's going to be a hiring manager, or it's going to be an HR manager, but you want to put a specific person if possible. So a lot of times we'll put on the ad for the job, we'll put down contact, whoever, like that, and then you want to put that down. So that was just another cover letter. Sorry, folks. And when it comes down to completing, getting potential employers, you want to, of course, you're going to complete a employment application. Then it's going to have all this information that you're going to have to fill out, and it may even have W-2 information and stuff like that. So this is your taxes that are going to be withheld too. And then usually it goes from the application, which you put, fill out all the information that they're requesting, and then you put your resume with it, your cover letter. And then when they do interview for it, you want to dress appropriately for the job. I wouldn't go out and order a tuxedo for an automotive career. A lot of times you can show up in a really nice attire. Some people show up with a tie on too. I always showed up with a tie. I had this special little tie I had that had cars all over it like that. Always got comments on that. And then you want to make sure you show up on time. You want to be really enthusiastic about the job. And then after the interview, one of the great things, and I was a hiring manager at USC for quite a few years. And one of the things I really appreciated was after the interview, I would get either an email or an actual letter thanking me for the interview and allowing them to have time to discuss the job with them. And then after you look at, you accepted the job, you're given the opportunity to take the job. You want to complete any extra paperwork that might be involved. Now, one of the things I wanted to actually bring on this too is a lot of times you're going to get stuff that's online. I would scope out the place that you're applying for. I actually, excuse me, I actually looked online and I said, you know what, before I apply for this, I'm going to go ahead and look at the location it's at. And I'm glad I did, because the location was kind of shady. The job description looked phenomenal, but when I went by the location, there was hardly any parking on the street, of course. There was also what I thought was a concern, is not the best area to be working in. And when I looked in the area, the shop was messy. It was not what the job description said. So you might want to look where it's at. I'd always like to look at what times are open and what times you're required to be there also. So those are some of the things that I would actually look at. Now, when it comes to pay, technician pay, there's different types of pay. There's what they call, straight time. When a technician is paid while he's there. It's sometimes called by the hour, and some places actually give you a bonus for so many hours per week. That when you look at the time for repair, I was always usually pretty fast on my repairs, and I could put out more time than hours per week. I had a few places that would pay me a little bonus for doing some extra type work. Then there's flat rate. Flat rate, pay is when a technician is paid for a specific amount of time for a repair. So when you look at labor hours, so they'll give you, let's say, to do a front brake job on a car, they give you 3 hours to do it. I'm not saying that's every car, it depends on what it is. And then if you can do that, in an hour and a half, you still get that, pay for that 3 hours. And this is where, flagging hours, the term flagging area hours comes in. And you can definitely, if you build up your skills, you don't want to shortcut things, especially with brakes, because that can be a really big problem. But you want to be able to get it done correctly and then get paid for that amount too. So this is what is called flat rate or flagging hours and stuff like that. Experienced technicians really can make some really good money doing it that way. Now, the other thing, folks, even though it says, yeah, we're paying you $1,000 a week, and being single, you're going to have quite a bit of deductions come out of it. So you're going to have a gross pay, and then you're going to have taxes taken out of your state taxes, your local taxes, your federal taxes, whatever there might be. And then you may have some other deductions. I'm hoping you do, because you want to think about your future and retiring someday. So hopefully they have some kind of like a 401k or something going on that you can contribute to. There may be, and if it's a fairly big shop, you'll have possibly for you, if you have a family, you may have to pay in a little more to that too, but they may cover your medical. And then there's other benefits involved, after so much time there, maybe a year, maybe two, you get a vacation. And there, of course, possibilities of being able to get additional training, going to training locations and upping your skills. And some employers, and I've heard of this, I was unfortunate I didn't get it when I was there, but working in the field. But I actually, some people were actually paid to go to training and paid their actual salary to go to training too. So that's kind of another thing that's pretty good. And I always go for that kind of job too. So when you're looking at living expenses, you got to look at, of course, housing, your car, all the insurances involved in that too, your groceries, your utilities, all that has to come on. So when I'm calculating stuff out, I'm usually looking at, okay, how much is it going to cost me? So you might want to break out an Excel sheet and look at what your past record on your utilities also. If you're still living at home, you may not know that, but you want to go online and say, okay, I want to get my own place and I want to go over here. So you want to look at your gross pay, and usually you want to look at it a monthly thing. And then you're going to take and find out, okay, what is my rent? Okay, what are my utilities? Okay, and then I have to do laundry, of course. I want to have a little money for going on, have a little bit of fun. And you want to kind of itemize all this out so that you don't get yourself strapped. And then of course your car, your gas, your insurances, all this, you got to start calculating out before you kind of say, yeah, I'll take the job kind of thing. You want to see, this is what I need to survive. And I would like to have a little extra more sort of that little fun money, and I want to buy tools along the way too. So kind of plan that all out before you start and say, okay, I accept the job. And then you find out you're digging yourself into a hole like that. The other thing too, some people like to have their own shops. Now, I have different feelings about this, folks, and I'm not trying to say don't do it, but it's a big task. My grandfather owned a shop, and my dad ran it, and I ran it too. I've ran a few shops along the way. I've had my own little side businesses going, and there is a big thing that you got to think about. One, it's a lot of non-repair parts to it. You really, I would, if it was me, okay, I would have somebody run the shop and let me work on cars. Or you can switch it around. You be the boss, you run the shop, you got to handle the customers, you're going to ordering and paying for all the shop equipment, because you're going to be building up the shop and you're going to have more and more equipment as you go along. I've had a few places that actually they put so much money of their profit into an account, and then they buy that big piece of equipment instead of buying it on lease, or it really it can save you a lot of hassle by having to put all this extra money out, and then you own it then. And then of course you're going to have a bookkeeper, or you're going to be doing the bookkeeping. I know there's a lot of programs online that you can use, but still you really need to have it right. And then you're going to be doing payroll. That means you're going to have the taxes be taken out of your employer's money. You're going to have all these other disability insurance. You're hopefully going to have insurance for your employees too. Then you have to budget everything out. If you own the area, that's great. But there again, if you rent, you're going to have to think about rent when you're doing it. And of course, you want to advertise your product and your services. And this is something else you need to think about doing too. And then of course, hiring, and the part that I hated so much, but I've had to do it quite a few times. I shouldn't say quite a few times, but a few times, firing people. Okay, if they're not performing, if they're not showing up on time, they're not doing what is expected of them, and they're just not performing, you need to make that critical decision, because it can cost your shop money. So this is what I wanted to go over a little bit. Hopefully it wasn't too long, but I wanted to give you an overview of, preparing for a job, and getting yourself in there. And I wish you all the best. I really feel the automotive, my automotive career has been stellar. There again, like I said before, I was blessed by being a third generation mechanic, and that did help me get a leg up. But after my grandfather closed down his shop, I was pretty much on my own, and I learned a lot of things along the way, and I keep on learning. I have friends in the field still, and they asked me to come run their shop or come help them out in kind of a strange problem they're having. Maybe another mind, Marty, will help me out and figure this out. And so hopefully you enjoyed this little presentation, and I will definitely be seeing you in the next video. Talk to you soon. Bye for now.